So friends, in previous lecture, we introduced or we saw the broad feature that included the definition, evaluation of consciousness, and then our final remark that for human factor consideration, whatever state of the art is available, that is adequate. Now, in this lecture, we will see how these theories have evolved, or how these eras have evolved, rather I would say, and we'll take an overview, because this lecture will set the ball rolling for having a discussion on the major consciousness theories. There are 4 or 5 we are discussing. Some are in neuroscience, and some are there in the information or computational science, and maybe we might go to the modern era, that is in quantum mechanics also. So, this lecture is very important because we have seen the chronological order or chronological evolution in the introduction lecture, but then they have to be discussed like ancient era, major evolutionary developments, and for coming up to the modern science. And then we need to have a background introduction, and for our lecture or for the purpose of investigating consciousness, we should have a model where we will show that there is a need to have a transaction between various stages of evolution, what has conspired there, and what the philosophical assertions were there or postulations were there, and now what is the state of the art in modern science, and then finally we should be able to postulate some assumptions or postulations and some findings or some model and methods for getting onto the risk conscious operation management, the subject of this course. Now, before I talk about the consciousness research, let us see one assertion or one quote from physicist Sir James Jean. What this quote asserts is, mind no longer appears to be accidental intruder into the realm of matter. We ought rather to hail as the creator and governor of the realm of matter. Get over it and accept the inarguable conclusion: the universe is immaterial, mental and spiritual, directly hinting at the spiritual component of consciousness. And then it goes further: there are factors associated with the consciousness that affect reality. And if we the Nobel Prize winning research that got the Nobel Award, what we see is not a reality. So, that is a very old assertion that this world is mithya. Okay? Because even if I am looking at this material object, material object is made of atoms. Atoms are made of proton, neutron. Because of our vision and its capability, we might see something, but there is a reality something different. And again, for electron, proton or neutron, electron of course, it is a subatomic particle and we are. But then if you talk about the proton, it is made of many of, we will come to that also, many of the further down subatomic particles, and that makes the neutron and proton. So, and then so if we see the standard table, we will come to that. What we are trying to point out is that consciousness is something which what is the reality? and what is our capability. If we cannot translate it in my checklist, that doesn't mean that things don't exist. They do exist. Only thing is my checklist has a limitation. Now, that has been driving the consciousness research through the 16th century towards the modern era, and which is now we are trying to tap some point for Orch-OR, risk conscious operation management. This calls for a systematic consideration of ancient wisdom. I mean, whatever research has been done at the level of body, because that is my first and primitive experience, or first maybe final experience, what I am feeling when I am sitting in meditation, and then so unless until it comes from some instrument, instead of that it comes from my body, those symptoms and methods, that also has to be included in the present format of research. And then modern science can have their own checklist for further naming it or rejecting it, or accepting for further research. So the field is open as far as the consciousness. So because now there is a confidence that it is going beyond material domain. So if I to see for the purpose of research, what should be our format, and then the literature search, we show or we see that science and philosophy of consciousness as a general feature for our research, and we can see from ancient era to that is 5,000 years ago, and that is what I have followed in my research. And then 15th century sees then modern era characterization, and of course in between there was a classical era. And is there any dot that we can use for joining our research and advanced R&D, that is 20th century onwards, and this comprises of, as I mentioned, the quantum science and all that. Okay. And then integration of this, that means whether a holistic view can be made about any aspect of consciousness. And finally, why we are doing it? Because we want to apply this science in our day-to-day field to benefit from a improved understanding, especially of human behavior. And consciousness protocol postulating guide and retribution metrics, and developed our own metrics methods, and like it becomes part of the traditional science protocol. So when we go for the literature, we will just touch upon the aspects, because time may not permit us to. So ancient knowledge, two thoughts form the core of philosophy. They are non-duality and duality. Especially in Indian thoughts or in Vedic thoughts, non-duality and duality both are there, but the principal foundation is for non-duality. Everything has emerged from the same point or same source. Consciousness was considered as fundamental universal phenomena and all pervading. This was a assertion from ancient knowledge and philosophy. Now, for understanding the human body, the body was seen existing at 5 levels, at 5 levels, and they are physical body, then vital or energy level of the body, then mental consciousness, and then supra-consciousness, that is it is also termed as Vigyan, that is intellectual ability for questioning, imagination and reasoning, which all happen at the level of brain, and blissful consciousness, the last stage. So what we can pursue is that consciousness has got a different meaning at body level, at energy level, mental level, supra level and at bliss level, and this is the highest level. And we are in the, everybody wants to attain the blissful condition, and that is how this is the 5th level. The ancient focus of research and philosophy was a study of nature through experience of self. Ancient people didn't have instruments, they didn't have advanced strategies, So, at the experience sitting in meditation, and they will try to see, and human body is the most complex system. So, the most complex machine and most complex instrument also built it. So, it will give the one of the finest results, and then this kind of experiments can be done at like we do population in statistics studies, and then all we can all combine these results, and then we can formulate certain strategies. So, these are the starting data points that we have over here. The present Acharya, he asserts that is Sadguru. The only reason, you can say, fundamental level, this quote assures that the consciousness is the foundation of existence. Okay. So, now ancient knowledge and philosophy, if we take, then after the body level, that is physical level, there are sense organ. In fact, the Veda and Upanishad, they saw that there are 5 organs to interact with the outside world. There is eye, and eye, that is for vision, ear for auditory experience, nostril for smell, skin for touch, and tongue for taste. Enable interaction of human with outside world organs. And then there are some, along with the consciousness, Vigyan, role of wisdom plays a bigger role. We have science. You saw the present state of the situation. We have Vigyan, but probably wisdom is also required for everyone's happiness. Okay. Of course, this is maybe in topic itself, but then this is what the ancient knowledge so pragyan means wisdom. Wisdom and Vigyan together, they take you to the higher levels. Evolution of language that facilitated recording of ethos, script, grammar, and critical aspects. Cultural development of society and poetic expression that we see in the record expression came in the existence. Vedas are recognized one of the oldest knowledge in ancient era. Earlier they were in Shrutis, that means orally they were translated, and later on it was into the written scriptures were available, and they were translated through the Upanishads. So, the scope of this lecture is not exhaustive for details. Please refer this book, because my book on consciousness, it talks about this. I had introduced this book in the previous lecture. Okay. Now, classical scientific knowledge. During classical era, there were not much, only there were some philosophy. There was no science as an effort that had undergone. And Sigmund Freud, he was one of the few, divided human consciousness into 3 levels of awareness. That is consciousness level, pre-conscious level, and unconscious level. Probably the term indicates in the self, and they are self-explanatory. Each of these levels correspond and overlap. Now, the same thing when we do in electroencephalography, we have alpha, beta, theta, gamma, and those things. So, we are talking about the same states in those things, and probably in more details. But this was the Sigmund Freud's assertion that there are 3 levels. Each of these levels correspond and overlap with the idea of the ego and super ego. Okay. David Chalmers, and this expression or his assertion are very famous, hard problem of consciousness, because people are not able to define consciousness. But then the question is, if something is fundamental, how you define? Okay, because there is no parameter supporting that particular thing. So, but he argued that reductionist approach that works so well for material science may not be right framework for approaching consciousness and developing new paradigm. He has given a way out. It has not been understood because we are using the old tools and method, that is charter for material domain. So, that is why. So, go beyond, and probably you will be able to explain it. There is no general consensus whether human consciousness works at the level of whole body or only at the level of brain. when we say in ancient approach, it is all pervading. That means it works at the whole body or even surrounding also. But of course, in our postulation, we'll say it works at the level of body, brain, and body in action as an action component. There is a consensus that the science of consciousness is still evolving stages as the subject is complex and possibly difficult to capture, and not only with traditional approaches to science. That is Newtonian, that is traditional science is also called Newtonian science or classical science. But a challenge to even comprehend by advanced approach like quantum mechanics and conservation model, etc. But classical it may not explain, but advanced approaches that gearing up ready, we will see some examples also that they are able to explain the consciousness. So, in modern approach, the first and most talk about area is we can say at the level of neuroscience. Neuroscience has been talking about, they have been in real time also, they have been using in healthcare this kind of assertion on consciousness. So, classical era we said that there was not much contribution. The material domain limitation, but then there appears to be an acceptance framework, understand the nature of consciousness. So, even though there was not much development, but in the same era, this was used in the as a healthcare system. And now let us see in this direction, quantum mechanics and computational theories. Quantum mechanics operating in the range of physical dimension showed the spark of multi-scale properties is defined by Planck's constant. It is 10 to the minus 34 or so meter. Further, the standard model of elementary particles and gravity demonstrated that there is more to Newtonian's or classical framework, because there are new processes they are not able, we are not able to understand through classical science approach. Role or effect of observer, double slit experiment. So, reality collapses the moment observer comes into the picture. So, we can read this thing on in the literature. So, what is happening is, when we talk about at the level of human body, we have a brain which is a computational machine for human body cognition, and then peripheral nerves, and then we at the brain, these brains are made of, we will see next slide, 100 billion neurons. This is one neurons, and the structure of neuron is, this is the nucleus, then axons, dendrites, these are synapse connections. Dendrites, they provide connection for synapses to connect it with other neurons. So, you can see how many neurons one neuron can connect, and that is how it forms a network, and this is the conceptual diagram of neuron. And probably the same neuron philosophy or inspiration has been used in machine learning, artificial neural network, how neurons are connected. And I think to some extent there is a huge gain. Now, this is a world of AINN, and we are talking about how this basic element in neural network also, it has been playing out through various connection and various activation mechanism, and it provides the results. So, there is a connection between what we get inspiration from human body and how we translate into the science. Now, the summary of modern science is like this. The modern science asserts and argues that consciousness arises at the level of brain. Fine, for at least for the purpose of risk conscious operation management, it is good. The integrated information theory, which we will discuss in detail separately. Tononi's model, Tononi is one of the scientists, as I showed you that image in the first lecture. Information or quantum data and knowledge is at the core of his integrated information theory, and that means whatever information we have, and that plays a role of consciousness, and this theory is called IIT, Integrated Information Theory, and its level of consciousness or level of integration is defined by a factor of phi. The phi matrix may not be directly related to source site of consciousness, but has an model which refers to quantum of data and information that it considers implicitly or explicitly as the basis of knowledge, and that translates into consciousness. Then neural correlate of consciousness. There are some theory, Christopher and Koch and Francis, who postulated that neural correlates of consciousness resides in the prefrontal cortex. We have a body, then the frontal area is called prefrontal area, where thinking, rational analysis, perception, they happen. So the NCC phenomena occurs at the prefrontal cortex. Set, a neurologist, after his extensive research and wonders on the capability of reductionist approach that work excellently in material domain, may not be adequate for consciousness research, as consciousness is intrinsically private. It cannot be played out or on the instrument, it cannot be observed on the instrument, it is basically at the body level, and it is our personal attribute. That is what he is trying to. Orchestrated reduction, and that is Hemroff and Penrose, propose a model involving orchestrated reduction where the quantum of vibration in microtubules. In fact, earlier theory they said that the consciousness is playing out at the level of brain or neurons, but he says to be precise, it is played out at the level of microtubules. This is one of the biggest finding in the consciousness research at the level of brain, and look to a source of cognitive consciousness. So that generates a cognitive consciousness. So that's how we saw the connection between consciousness and cognition. The consciousness framework we have discussed. Learn from the ancient, medieval, or any era, use those dots and try to validate, verify, and develop a new science of consciousness. And if it asserts that we have to come out of the standard checklist of material research, let us not hesitate, go beyond minus 32 meter, 10 to the minus 32 or 35 meter, and try to have research, and even the experience at the level of body, physical level, find out a way or a stream to generate a science of consciousness. An integrated approach appears to be a possible solution to understand the consciousness. Every modern approach has given some new insight into it, and we can use those insight from there to develop the new science of consciousness.